Hello everybody, welcome to episode 26 of Shonen Shorts, which today we'll be going over the August 9th issue of Weekly Shonen Jump. So this week I read Under Doctor, Hall Formula, Cannon Master, and Hunter x Hunter. So for Under Doctor, it was kind of samey, kind of boring, honestly, this week, because we see as Haji, Samejima, and Ishiro end up getting this heavily critical patient. They end up doing the surgery, everything goes fine. We see as he is then okay, and like I said, all 22 of the bomb victims, or whatever the previous event was, I believe it was a bombing, they're all safe, everything's hunky-dory, and we see as Ishiro ends up inviting Chiwa and Shuli and Haji over to have a meal with his wife and him after everything. So, I don't see how Under Doctor is still going. Like, we don't have a direct, focused story at the moment, and we're just doing little random side quests, so we need to, pick it up or pack it up, honestly. But yeah, so then on to Hall Formula. So Hall Formula this week, we see as Otopolis Owita ends up beginning. So at first, we see as they're strategizing. We see as Miharu is talking with his people, and we see as they're kind of telling him about what he needs to do. And they're mentioning how he needs to get in front of Hinokura first. He needs to get in front of him first at the first turn. And the longer the race goes on, the less likely it becomes for Miharu to win. And this is a 30-minute race, by the way. We get all this explanation and everything in this chapter. So we then see as Hinokura's people are discussing with him, and they know what Miharu is going to do, since they've raced a lot and they know this stuff. So we see as Hinokura dedicates himself to blocking Miharu off as turns, so Miharu's unable to do this. So we see as the race starts, and ultimately Hinokura ends up blocking Miharu very early on. And he keeps doing this, and the race continues to progress, and Miharu's trying to figure out how he can beat Hinokura, and he tries multiple strategies, but ultimately Hinokura ends up thinking of him and blocking him. So ultimately, we see as Miharu ends up looking back and thinking about when they were doing the virtual racing sim, when Hinokura breaks down. So he's like, I gotta take charge of Hinokura's fears. So we see as ultimately Miharu ends up doing this, and as the chapter ends, we see as Miharu is preparing to make a move on Hinokura. So great chapter honestly this week, and I cannot wait to see how this plays out. I'm so ready to see what will happen at Autopolis, and if Kyogoku will now become the new mentor of Miharu. Yeah, so then on to Cannon Master. So the Cannon Master chapter was honestly kind of short this week, but it was really good, because we see as the fight between the Daemon and Baharat continues, and they're just going at it, going to town. We see as Baharat's drastically increasing in speed. He's going relatively toe-to-toe with the Daemon, and they're going crazy, but ultimately he's unable to do too much damage, so he has to start to flee for a bit, and ultimately he then ends up recruiting recruiting Ur's abilities, so that he can actually do some serious damage to the Daemon. Not the Daemon, but the Demon. So we see then as Ura ends up launching his laser at the Daemon, and the Daemon is very surprised by this, because he's like, yo, only Regolith should be able to do that. But ends up shooting it at him, and he takes some severe damage, and they end up flying back, hitting him with it again, but then the Demon is saved, and we see as, now he's not saved yet, we see as Ur and Baharat end up coming through, and Baharat ends up whipping out this cool, massive shuriken-looking blade thing to try and cut at the Demon. We see as the Demon is ultimately saved by what appears to be another Demon. So another Demon has hit the battlefield, that is, in this, I guess, story that is going on with Cannon Master. So I'm really ready to see how this plays out, because I don't believe... Yes, Ur is very useful and very potent when it comes to his attack power, but 2 demons is a pretty hefty price to pay if we can base off, not a hefty price to pay, but a pretty hefty fight to be fighting. And we can base off, the exposition and stuff from the previous chapters. But yeah, so I'm really ready to see where that goes next week. So then we get on to chapter, I believe, 417 of Hunter x Hunter. Now I wish I could have made Shonen Shorts last week, because the previous chapter was great, and this chapter was even better. So we see the chapter starts off, Benjamin is straight up blast Serenich, however you want to say his name. Straight up blast him. Then he goes over, stomps his head in. He's talking about him, telling him all the stuff and all the plans and stuff like that. We see as even Serenich is the one who knows that what's going on here is did he actually just kill Serenich? And so then after that, we see as Benjamin goes around and continues to establish the, I guess, lockdown from the crap. I'm not forgetting the term. Oh no, military shutdown, martial law, there we are. So, see, as he's going to battle, he ultimately ends up meeting with, I think it's the third and the 6th prince, yeah, I'm pretty certain. the girl with the like rosy cheeks and the other dude. I actually just realized that he was a dude this chapter. The one with the glasses and who's like the researcher and all that. Like I didn't know that they were a dude for the longest time. I just presumed it was a woman for some reason. But yeah, so see this, and then he kind of gets in here talking with him and all that, explaining what's going on, what's going to happen. He mentions about how Kurapika learned that if the, I guess, battle it ultimately does not lead to just one member of the Kakin royal family being alive, then everything will essentially shut down, everything will break, and everything goes to kaput, essentially. But yeah, also we got a brief explanation. Wait, no, this was until later on. But yeah, so we see this, and in this we see as he ends up releasing something from his shoe that is unnoticed by the two other princes. This is the TSK gas or whatever that he is poisoned with, that he is now poisoning them with, preparing to kill him. See, he ultimately leaves this and he goes heading out to find others. And he's walking, we see people are commenting like, yo, you probably shouldn't be out here. But he's like, I'm going to do this because it is my goal, it is my duty, and I'm going to make sure it gets done. And he already reveals that, yo, I'm going to be dying pretty soon anyways. So then after that, we get a explanation of how his Nin Beast works. We see as how it in fact functions. I don't know if we've got this before, but what it does is upon death, it ultimately ends up transferring. Well, okay, so the person who had the Nin Beast is absorbed into the Nin Beast essentially as a consciousness, and it then moves on to the heir of this individual. Now, this can be selected by the Nin Beast by its own discretion, or the original owner of the Nin Beast can select it before their death. So we see as what Benjamin's plan is essentially to become this godlike creature after death by, I guess, reflecting the Beyond Netero, his name like Furikov, reflecting Furikov's curse, then allowing Benjamin to ascend to like this godhood, and then passing down to his heir. So, see that plan. Also, we see as he's kind of discussing all of the other princes and explaining like why he doesn't want to kill him necessarily, but he has to. And there are some that he mentions about how he doesn't necessarily have to kill. He speaks on Wobble. He's like, he knows that Wobble may in fact not actually be on the boat. And he mentions about how if Wobble is not on the boat, then he will not have to kill Wobble, and he will in fact allow Wobble to live. But he's like, if Wobble is on the boat, then I'm going to wipe out their entire clan. So that is where the chapter, well, that is not where the chapter is, because we see as he's talking later on about what he's going to do to his mother, because he is outraged and curious if she will continue to pick his brother over him. So that is where the chapter ends, and this chapter was phenomenal. I loved it. That scene of Serenich getting blasted right off the bat. Like, Serenich is probably my favorite out of the new members, like the Cocking Royals. However, Benjamin may be getting up there now, because this was a sick chapter. I loved it, and I cannot wait to see if Benjamin's plan ends up playing out. I don't know if we'll get to see it, because we only got 3 chapters definitively left. So I'm really, really excited. I mean, not really ready, but really excited to see where, I guess, the known content that we have for Hunter x Hunter will end at the moment. And I don't know if we will necessarily get to the end of the martial law stuff and ultimately to Benjamin's death to see how it plays out, because we got a lot of stuff to relatively do in 3 chapters. So just really ready to just really ready to see where that plays out. But also one thing I forgot to mention is I believe it's the 9th prince who lost her close sister, and we see how Benjamin's talking on her, and he's like, she doesn't really need to be killed by me because she had so many negative spirits around her that she would die pretty soon anyways. So that's a little extra thing that I forgot to mention there. But yeah, so that's all that really was for the August 9th issue of Weekly Shonen Jump, and that's all I really have for episode 26 of Shonen Shorts. So thank you very much for watching.